Kubaluleke kangakanani kwabesifazane ukuthola usizo ngokusheshsha ngezinkinga ezifana nezinhlungu uma besesikhathini, ukopha kakhulu, ukuya ezinsukwini kaningana kunokujwayelekile, izifo ezifana ne-endometriosis, ama-ovarian cysts nako konke okuhlangene nesibeletho. Umthelela walezi inkinga usuwenze ukuba iningi lithi uhulumeni akabhekisise ukuthi angeke abesifazane banikwe izinsuku bahlale emakhaya uma besesikhathini njengoba kwenziwa kwamanye amazwe. Sikubingelele sikwamukela ohlelweni mbukeli Asikhulume Let's Talk. Igama lami ngingubongiwe uMakhumalo waKwaZwane. Sikhumbuza ke mbukeli ukuthi ungaba yingxenye yalolu hlelo ngokusishayela ucingo sizwe umbono noma umbuzo wakho. Inombolo zethu zocingo ke u-011-714-0677 noma 011-714-0678. Ungabuye futhi usithole emakhasini ethu okuxhumana ku Twitter @SABC Izindaba kanye na ku Facebook ikhasi lethu SABC Izindaba. Ukuze kubelula ke mbukeli sicela uqale ngo#Asikhulume #SABC News bese ke ubhala umbuzo noma umbono wakho. Asikhulume. Ukuntuleka kosizo nokwelashwa kwezifo ezibhidlangile kubesifazane umsusa wezinye zazo oqala uma beya esikhathini wenze iningi ligcine linezifo nezenza ukuthi abanye bagcine bengatholi abantwana. Lokhu sekwenze ukuthi kusungulwe izinhlelo zokuqwashisa ngalokho. Bheka nje inyanga uSeptember is Polycystic Ovary Syndrome Awareness Month, which is one of the illnesses associated with menstrual problems. Intatheli yohlelo unokubonga Hlatshwayo ukhuluma nabesifazane ababili abagcina nesifo ye-endometriosis nokwaqala ngezinhlungu nje uma beya esikhathini. Ake sibheke.
Izinhlungu nezenziwa ukuya esikhathini zenza abesifazane abaningi bangayi emsebenzini namantombazane angayi esikolweni. Kwabaningi lezi zinhlungu zithatha eziningi izinsuku nokugcina kutholakala ukuthi akuzona lezi zinhlungu kepha isifo i-endometriosis. U-Nadine noBunhle bakuleli dlazana okwatholakala ukuthi bane-endometriosis lapho sebeyizintombi ngenxa yokuthi yayimane ithathwe njengezinkinga noma njengezinhlungu zokuya esikhathini.
My diagnosis came very late. I only got diagnosed with endometriosis when I was 19 years old, even though I was symptomatic since I was about 14.
For me, I had seen it, in my own family. My mother had endometriosis, so I kind of maybe tried to eliminate a few things on my own. Then I had gone to not necessarily public, but I first went to private, but then I went to, a number of doctors, and one of them eventually, was in the public sector.
I-endometriosis akusona sodwa isifo esihambisana nezinkinga zokuya esikhathini. UNadine noBunhle basichazele kabanzi ngezinkinga abahlangabezana nazo emkhakheni wezempilo lapho befuna usizo ngezinkinga zokuya esikhathini.
I don't believe that the public health care system has the ability to deal with complex issues relating to reproductive health. And the reason I'm saying this is because even the diagnostic tools that are used to diagnose these issues are not something that they just have and you can go and get yourself sorted out.
A lot of people that do struggle with endometriosis and conditions that are like that experience gaslighting, so because it's one of those things, especially, because you're a woman, you're supposed to just deal with pain and be strong and just be resilient. Sometimes you can get dismissed, and I have experienced just being told that just, maybe it's stress, and not getting that kind of solution.
UNadine noBunhle babelane ngembono yabo mayelana nokuthi yini okufanele yenziwe ukuze kuthuthukiswe ukwelapha kwezifo zabantu besifazane.
For me, they should be easy to understand information out there, especially in rural areas where people are often far away from healthcare providers, that people can look and check and understand these symptoms and then say, oh, I might need help, let me go and seek help.
Just having a system where people can access affordable medication that actually works, that's not going to be as harmful because, they can hand out as much as they want to, but if it's maybe going to do more harm later, that doesn't help anyone.
Kuleli sonto mbukela umbuzo uthi ngabe unelisekile ngosizo oluthulayo ezikhungwini zezempilo ngokwelashwa kwezifo zabantu besifazane. Asikhulume.
Sibonga intatheli yohlelo unokubonga Hlatshwayo ngombiko. Now, Spain is set to become the first country in Europe to give women menstrual leave. Women in Spain suffering severe pain during their periods will be given up to 3 days off work every month. Menstrual leave is already given to employees in Zambia, South Korea, Japan, and Indonesia. Ingabe uhulumeni waseNingizimu Afrika wona umiphi kalokhu umnyango wezempilo wona wenza ngokwanele ukusiza abantu besifazane abanalezi zinkinga ukudingida kabanzi ngalokho asamukele ihambeli zethu mbukeli Candice Chirwa Menstrual Health Activist Dokotela Manala Makua ophuma kumnyango wezempilo kanye noDokotela Tsholofelo Kgoloko Dokotela wezifo zabesifazane abuye ababelethise phecelezi obstetrician and gynecologist. Let me thank you both for your time and also our guest who is joining us via telephone. I'm going to start with you, Candice. Do we really understand what women go through during that time of the month, as some call it?
Not at all, purely because the stigma surrounding periods is that, you know, we are conditioned to remain silent and therefore we're not told to speak openly around our periods. And I think that leads to a lack of education around what happens every single month, not really understanding that it is a natural biological function that is governed predominantly with our hormones that really leads up to like sort of a relieving of symptoms, and those symptoms most commonly being pain. And I think there's an element of invalidation that we experience when we say I'm experiencing period pain, because periods are sort of subjective and the pain is something that we can relate to, but when it comes to periods, because it's with taboo, something that we have to remain silent on. So I think it shows even in the workshops that we do with my nonprofit that young girls even feel isolated and terrified to speak openly about their experiences, especially with period pain, and they just have to sort of be strong and persevere and endure the pain, and that shouldn't be the case.
And Dokotela Kgoloko, one of the things that one thinks about is the fact that what Candice is talking about, the pain.
Yeah.
We are taught to be strong.
Yeah.
And therefore, when you're trying to say, I'm in pain, it's almost like just take a painkiller. It's going to be, you know, easily dealt with. Is that part of the reason why abantu besifazane are not thinking about accessing healthcare immediately when they feel that something is wrong?
Absolutely. You know, I think there's so many things that grapple access to healthcare and reproductive health services when it comes to women. And we need to look at it in the context of the individual, which is what we're speaking about now. And it starts with the knowledge that this is normal and this is a deviation from normal. And I think once we overcome that obstacle, then it will improve the health-seeking behavior of women, you know, because especially in remote areas, we find that there's often a delay in health seeking because, you know, you're not sure if this is normal or not normal, like Candice has said.
How do I know when it's not normal?
So essentially, if menstrual pain, you know, alters or interferes with your quality of life, that is not normal. If you're not able to go to school when you're on your period, if you can't do your job, your normal, regular daily duties, that is not normal, you know. And I think, like she said, it becomes a bit difficult when it comes to pain. When we often ask patients to rate their pain on a scale of 0 to 10, you know, and with things like endometriosis, most women would say 10, but I think the better question to ask is, does it interfere with your quality of life? And if the answer is yes, then that's absolutely not normal.
Dr. Makua, as you're joining us on the line, some, you know, when you listen to particularly those two women there, but they're not the only ones. We've also spoken to some of the viewers who say that they find that the public healthcare system is not able to deal with some of these particular challenges. It's like there's a sense of not knowing how to put these challenges in one box and deal with them in the manner in which they should be dealt with. How do you respond?
Okay, thank you very much. The issue of healthcare workers being able to deal with the problems is very complex. But let me try and simplify it in the next 2 minutes. Like you said, we don't have much time. The first thing is, how do you articulate the problem that you are having? I think I've realized that most people who are struggling with getting the proper information or the proper assistance in public health services It's mainly because we do not invest enough on educating young people or people about how to prevent your problem. There are many women who go to the facility, and when they present their problem, it's like they need to say something that somebody had said also for them to get the problem, rather than saying exactly what it means. I think earlier on somebody indicated that issues about pain. So if you're just saying, you know, I have pain on my menstruation, they will treat you as basic. They'll give you a mild analgesic. If it gets to a better situation, they'll give you hormonal replacement. But if you become very specific, I was absent from school 7 times because of the menstrual pain. You see the way you presented the problem, already it rings a bell. So I think we need to start there. And the second thing is we should also appreciate the fact that the healthcare system deals with a lot of things. And for it to focus, that's why we've got levels. And we need to get from one level, a primary healthcare or a clinic level, and then go to a level of a doctor who could also be within the primary healthcare, and then move on. The other education level that needs to be very clear to our people is...
So is it not... Pardon me for coming in there. Is it not then worth looking at an area of specialization here, which focuses on these issues, so that when a woman walks in, and whether or not she's explaining adequately, it can already ring alarm bells to someone who is in that specialized unit to say this might be happening, instead of generalizing it?
That's where I'm getting to say, remember, in the clinic, you don't have specialists, you have generalists. You get to specialists as you move up the ladder. So that's why I'm saying...
But should we not have a unit? That's my question. Should we not have a unit that when they walk in, they walk straight there?
Practically, it's not possible. But what needs to happen is it shouldn't take long. I can tell you about the specialized units. Across South Africa right now, we've got about 18 specialized units that are specializing specifically about that. But you cannot just have it as a walk-in. Remember, there are more women out there who are struggling with menstrual issues. And it's not only about endometriosis. It's a lot of them. It emanates from endometriosis to cervical cancer. It's a lot. And each of them requires a different area of specialization and a different area of management.
All
but
right.
It starts as generalist, and then it allows you to go up the ladder. I think if you ask me what would work better, equip women, if we have to invest like you are doing in programs like this one, if we talk about it more frequently, people will get used to saying, no, if we do this, somebody says you should be know when it's abnormal. But then it should be abnormal, but from general to specialty, from specialty to subspecialty. So it must go up the ladder. You're not supposed to be stuck and present with one problem over and over and over without moving to the next level. One area is to demand that I've been here already. Can I go to
Dr. Makua, I'm going to ask just to pause for a second. We have to go for an ad break. When we come back, I would like to hear from Candice on some of what you've just said, to see if it really is practically impossible, as you say. Sikwamukele mbukeli kanti uma uqeda ukuhlangana nathi sikhuluma ngezinkinga zezifo eziphatha abantu besifazane, sibala ukopha kakhulu nezinhlungu basesikhathini, ama-ovarian cysts, endometriosis nezinye eziningi. Ake sizwe ukuthi nithini einkundleni zokuxhumana. Uma ngena uthi akunzima ukwenza i-pap smear, ubhukelwe several times ngoba akekho ozokwenza, sithwele kanzima. I suppose Umangena is talking about the public sector, to say that you get a booking so many times. Uhlengiwe uthi cha bo mina abanqeni ukungenza isilima sabo, but i-treatment angiyilande pharmacy, mangifika khona bathi abanayo, angifonele head office la kuphuma khona i-treatment yami, mangifona bathi nje eclinic zange bawathumele ama dates. Why bengazange bawathumele? Ingoba mina abangithathi notice. Awuhlengiwe Nkosi yami, that is quite a painful thing you think about, Candice, because this is exactly what we mean when we are saying if women walk in to a public healthcare system and they're able to go straight to that unit for whatever reproductive health issue they may have, it might be a little easier because you have somebody that understands what you're talking about.
Yeah. And I think we cannot be in the mindset that it's practically impossible to live up to the reality of having a specialized care unit, because it's what all people who menstruate deserve. I think going through a generalized healthcare process is very difficult because oftentimes, like she said, your pain will not necessarily be analyzed correctly. When you go through a specialized care, you have to do the ultrasounds, the pap smear, and you feel like your problem is actually being addressed versus just, here's painkillers or birth control, and then you have to wait another 3 months for an appointment. So it doesn't feel like your issue around period pain or any specific period symptom is being taken like as a serious issue or serious concern, and therefore people treat it that way. They think that the only way they can get some form of adequate care and response is if they have the money to access specialized care. And so I think we need to move our mindset to say, you know what, it's probably time that the general public can have access to specialized care because that's what they deserve. And in particular with period pain, we cannot just continue with the cycle of, oh, you have severe period pain, just have some painkillers and everything will be fine. Or you have period pain, just take some form of birth control and everything will be fine. Especially when people might have fibroids and they're experiencing heavy bleeding, and that impacts their ability to be productive at work. And so outside of that, as menstrual health activists, we're also calling for menstrual leave to cater for the fact that if people are experiencing these period symptoms and period conditions, that they can take off from work to be able to go to hospital or get some form of access to care.
And it's such an important thing that you talk about, but I'd like us to stay with something else you mentioned, and this is around self-medication. We see a lot of women go and get over-the-counter meds in order to try and deal with whatever pain, whatever situation they're experiencing. Is that safe?
It depends. You know, I mean, I did touch on, you know, there are obstacles that we need to overcome in order to provide access, better access. We spoke about the individual, knowledge, education, and I think the second one is healthcare facility, healthcare worker. We know that a very real barrier that exists is stigma, you know, and a way to overcome that is by ensuring that in certain situations, women don't have to go to the clinic to get certain medications. I'm going to give you an example, right? Accessing, I know this is a bit off of the menstrual pain and endometriosis, but accessing contraception care, accessing safe termination of pregnancy care. You know, I've been abroad, they found ways, or there's a new medication that is accessible over the counter. So that actually overcomes the barrier of having to go to the clinic and being exposed to the stigma. So it depends. In certain situations, yes, it is safe.
Sometimes when this pain is not diagnosed in time, we see complications. How much of, and I'm not only talking about menstrual pain, there's so much, there's cysts, there's so many things, and sometimes you find that a woman is pregnant and she maybe has fibroids or she has cysts, and they only sometimes pick that up much later. How much of a danger does this pose for that woman when she is going to have a baby? Because sometimes, in some instances, we hear women saying they've lost their babies.
Oh, yes, you know, and it's so, I can't emphasize the importance of improving health-seeking behaviors. And that speaks to primary health care as well, you know, facilities, especially in remote areas, you know, general practitioners, clinics, but we know that we saw from the comments from Mundleni Dean, it's such an issue. There are government initiatives. I'm going to give you an example. It's called Mom Connect. So it's basically an app, if I can say, where every single mom registers their pregnancy. And what happens is that they all get registered on this database, and our pregnant women get individualized SMSs, updating them weekly on their pregnancy and the well-being of the baby. They also able to access services and ask questions on that platform. So I think that can help to provide insights, to warn women about danger signs, you know, in terms of certain abnormalities in the pregnancy.
Dokotela Makua, we hear from one of our viewers in Kundleni zokuxhumana uthi, one, she's been waiting for a pap smear. Maga yesibhedlela, they send her from pillar to post, they cancel a booking, and it's not clear what's happening. What's going on there? Because she's not the only one. There are several others who've written to say that getting a pap smear at a public healthcare facility is a problem.
Yes, before I respond to that, let me clarify. When I said it's not possible to have specialized service, I mean at the primary health care, meaning at the first level of care. But as it advances, we would have it at the tertiary level. And then we have got very excellent service of excellence where we could have that. Similarly to pap smear. Pap smear is the primary health care service, meaning in any given clinic that you walk in, you should be able to access the pap smear. However, it needs to go to the fact that you need to get your results within 6 weeks, which is the maximum time. They can come back earlier, they can come back, but it shouldn't be more than 6 weeks. So women should also know that that is their right. They need to demand that, to say, in 6 weeks' time, I want my result here.
But sometimes they don't get that. You find nurses who tell you it's either you wait or you don't come back.
That's why I'm saying you need to assist us to monitor what is happening in the primary health care. If you know what you're entitled for, it's easy to escalate it, because if you don't know, you just take anything that is given as an answer, and which poses a problem. Because if you don't know how long it takes, then you are told, no, wait 2 more weeks, wait 3 more weeks. But if it's a standard, usually when you get in the primary healthcare facilities, there's somewhere where it's written patient's right charter and all that and all that. You know what you're entitled to get.
All right.
It can take us a long way. But I just wanted to respond to one issue.
Just before you respond, I'm going to give you a chance to respond to it just after the break. We have to go for an ad break. When we come back, I'll take you first so that you can respond. Mbogela, akasithisha leyitolo siyabuya. Dokotela Makua, very briefly, you wanted to respond.
I wanted to respond by saying, somebody saying you denied pap smear. Generally, if you're not sick, you are entitled for your first pap smear when you're 30 years of age. So every woman's birthday present for 30 years is pap smear. But if you have a problem, any menstrual-related problem or any gynae problem, you are entitled to get pap smear at any given time.
Okay, that's very helpful. Candice, we're looking at solutions for you. 30 seconds. What do you think are the solutions here?
The stigma associated around periods needs to be adequately addressed with, and I think we can only do that with education, but that doesn't necessarily lie on non-profits and activists. It relies on us speaking openly. Men, boys also need to get involved in just eradicating how we don't understand these myths and misconceptions around periods, because that's the only way we can empower ourselves to speak openly and normalize periods, and also understand that periods are normal, but period pain isn't.
Especially if, you still see women being frowned upon if you have a spot and unfortunately there was a leak in your dress, and men look at you and they're thinking, oh my goodness, what is going on? So those are still some of the conversations we need to have. For you, Doctor?
I think the solution, just to reiterate the community context, is the education, awareness campaigns, as well as involving boys, everyone in the conversation. That will help to destigmatize a lot of the sort of idea and what prevents women from actually going and seeking help. And believe it or not, even healthcare workers also have bias, and it's something that we absolutely need to address. But I have to again emphasize the importance of primary health care and just really ensuring that women are able to access health at that very basic level and not have to, go to private or go to tertiary public hospitals.
And primary is very critical. And Dr. Makua, I know that in the beginning you spoke about something else very critical about, the education part of it. Very briefly for you, what becomes the easy wins in the public sector to make sure that we improve the situation here?
The quick win is, I think as a department, we create platforms. But maybe what we need to do is to get the platforms that we create from public health care amplified by other activism platforms and by maybe radio platforms to say the same message. For an example, they spoke about the Mom Connect. Unfortunately, Mom Connect is only when there's pregnancy involved and up until the child is 2 years. Very great platform, very helpful. We've got over 3 million women who have registered on that platform, but 3 million is just a hint. But we also have another platform that we call a DWISE that caters for the women of reproductive age outside pregnancy. So we've got those two platforms, which are education platforms. And the good thing about them is they've got an interactive component. So you don't just send the message into an empty space. Somebody will respond, somebody will listen to, somebody will address the question as an individual. Those two platforms for the department, if they are maximally utilized and are amplified by others, it will make a difference. You know what you're entitled to have, you know when things are not happening, but you also know what is right and what is wrong when it's happening in the public health facility. I think those two platforms are very powerful for us. All what we're asking for is let's join hands because people need a reliable source. So sources like those, they are better, they are recruitment, they can make a difference.
Thank you very much, Dr. Makua, and I hope one day we get to talk about these platforms and educate our viewers. Mbukeli siyabonga ukuthi uhlanganyele kanye nathi nehambeli zethu Candice Chirwa Menstrual Health Activist Dokotela Manala Makua ophuma emnyango wezempilo kanye Dokotela Tsholofelo Kgoloko Dokotela wezifo zabesifazane abuye ababelethise phecelezi obstetrician and gynecologist. Asithembe ukuthi ingxoxo yethu izoqhubeka emakhasini ethu okuxhumana. Ubongiwe Khumalo kwakwazwana nethimba le Asikhulume sithi nisale kahle.